disturb on my iPad.
Or you're going to want to click broadcast, and then you might need to use the lower left controls to advance the slides.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning and welcome.
You're not broadcasting?
BizTimes webcast series, Candid Conversations. Oh, no. I hit broadcast. Are you sure?
Everyone, it looks like we're ready. We're broadcasting.
Yeah. Candid Conversations and Nonprofit Leadership. For those who don't know me, I'm Dan Meyer, publisher of BizTimes Media. Before we begin, I'd like to thank you for your readership support for attending this webcast today. At BizTimes Media, we're celebrating our 25th year as an independent and family business, and we're proud to serve as the only locally owned B2B media company in the region. Like many industries, the nonprofit industry has been greatly disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Fundraising, events, and regular programs have all been affected in various ways. This is the third webcast of a three-part series featuring nonprofit leaders who are navigating through these challenges. We're confident that the ideas and best practices they will share will help you move forward in your organization. Today's program will focus on preparing for a new normal, and the slide deck from today will be available at biztimes.com/NP webcast series. That was easy for me to say. This program is recorded and will also be available later today. I'd like to thank our panelists for sharing their insights with us this morning. For many years, BizTimes Media has been committed to highlighting the nonprofit industry within southeastern Wisconsin and connecting it to our affluent and influential readers. You'll meet our program moderator in a moment, BizTimes Media Associate Editor, Lauren Anderson. I'd like to commend Lauren for the great job she does in covering this important industry. And I also want to acknowledge the fact that at our virtual association editorial and design awards program last night, Lauren won the Gold Award for Best Body of Work. Congratulations, Lauren, on this accomplishment. And Lauren's recognition of her great work was one of 6 awards BizTimes received at the national competition. So we're very excited about that. I'm so grateful to have such a fabulous team. Our every Friday nonprofit e-newsletters feature the latest nonprofit news and newsmakers. In each issue of BizTimes Milwaukee, we have 2 regular nonprofit features. Pay It Forward highlights a local business leader who gives their time, treasure, and talent to the nonprofit community. The alternative issues feature nonprofit news, a nonprofit spotlight, a calendar, and a donation roundup. We're proud of our annual giving guide and thankful for the continued support of many nonprofits and sponsoring companies. Our free nonprofit directory on biztimes.com features hundreds of nonprofits. And lastly, our annual Nonprofit Excellence Awards each fall celebrate for-profit and nonprofit organizations and individuals who have demonstrated excellence in the community. We also shine the spotlight on important subjects such as homelessness and housing, which was a featured issue last year. I encourage you to contact Lauren with your story ideas and news you would like us to cover. So thanks again for attending this webcast today, and thanks again to our panelists for sharing your insights with us this morning. So now I'd like to turn it over to BizTimes Associate Editor, Nonprofit Education and Healthcare Reporter, and today's program moderator, Lauren Anderson. Lauren, take it away.
Thanks, Dan. And thanks everyone for tuning in today. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our panelists we have joining us today. First, we have Chad Bauman, Executive Director of the Milwaukee Rep. Hector Colon, President and CEO of Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. Linnea Katz-Pettit, CEO of Revitalize Milwaukee. And Peter Engel, President and CEO of Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin. Thank you all for being here today. Thanks for taking the time to share your insights. I'd like to just remind everyone in the audience that you can use the Q&A function to submit your own questions for our panelists when we dive into the Q&A portion. But before we get to the questions, Chad, would you be able to introduce us to your work at the Milwaukee Rep?
Good morning. Can you go ahead and advance the next slide, Lauren, please?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Chad Bauman. I'm the Executive Director of Milwaukee Rep, and welcome to my bedroom here. I've never had 65 people tuning into my bedroom, so it's a thrill for me. We hope you have a great morning. Next slide, please. So the Milwaukee Repertory Theater is the largest performing arts organization in the state of Wisconsin in terms of audiences served. We perform from 4 different theaters, about 700 performances a year of 15 different plays, or roughly 300,000 or so people. We're in our 65th year, and we are known as the incubator of new work, an agent of community change, and a provider of vital arts education programs. Next slide, please. Our mission is to ignite positive change in our community using world-class theater to entertain, provoke, and inspire an audience representative of Milwaukee's rich diversity. So that we have basically 4 pillars. It's not good enough for us to just create artistic work, but we have to create positive change in our community and be representative of the rich, diverse communities that we serve. Next slide, please. We have core values of quality, inclusion, relevance, innovation, and sustainability. Everything that we do, we try to do it in a world-class way, in a meaningful way of impact in our communities, regionally and statewide, in an innovative manner that pushes our art form forward. And of course, as the executive director, I have to make sure that we are sustainable. So those are our core values. Next slide. Our pillars are exceptional art. So we are one of the top regional theaters in the United States with art created here in Milwaukee for Milwaukee, but is also played all over the world on Broadway and off Broadway. We inspire, we look towards growing our communities. The next slide. In cultivating community, everything that we do from the stage to the streets, we do it in mind to bring out the best in our region. And so that's really focused in our strategies, particularly in engagement and education. And in terms of education, we serve more than 20,000 students in 250 different schools from here all the way up to Door County, into Iowa, down into Illinois. So we have a pretty big footprint. Next. And that's it. We would invite you to check us out at MilwaukeeRep.com, and thank you for inviting us to participate today.
Thanks, Chad. Hector, can you introduce us to LSS?
Sure. Thank you very much, Lauren and BizTimes, for giving LSS and me the opportunity to be here with you today. I am the proud president and CEO of Lutheran Social Services of Wisconsin and Upper Michigan. At LSS, we empower people to live their best lives by offering services to a child in crisis who has nowhere to turn, a family in turmoil that might be facing eviction, an elderly person that needs a little bit of help to live independently and successfully in the community, or a refugee that's fleeing from war and persecution. LSS has been the place to turn to for these individuals for many, many years. LSS is a servant-led organization, and we believe in the infinite worth of everybody that comes through our doors, no matter their situation, their challenges, or background. We believe in their infinite worth. And every day, my colleagues and I realize our mission, which is to act compassionately, serve humbly, and lead courageously. And when we do that, along with our partners, we're able to realize our vision, which is to create healthy communities filled with people using their God-given gifts to serve. With courage, compassion, co-creation, and change, which is our values, we innovate services and deliver them with experience, with effectiveness, and with efficiency. First, experience. LSS has 138 years of proven results as a social service provider. Effectiveness. Over 90% of the individuals served at LSS have indicated that we have improved their quality of life. And efficiency. LSS beats the industry average by far on the percentage of dollars raised that go directly to client care. Our impact is real. Every year, nearly 30,000 individuals come to us with incredible odds stacked up against them. Nicole, pictured on the right, with her children, was nearing the end of a 3-month substance use treatment program and did not have stable housing options. She was in imminent need of food, rental, and utility assistance and household items. LSS was able to help her move from homelessness to stability in a relatively short period of time. Our additional services, including job search help, childcare, and substance use counseling, offered Nicole the skills and confidence she needed to gain independence, become self-sufficient, and achieve goals for herself and for her children. LSS provides health counseling and support services through our community-based and affordable housing programs, including our newly opened Golden Lofts in Racine. Thank you, BizTimes, for reporting on the ribbon cutting ceremony this week. And last, thanks to our partner, Jeff Jarrers and company, and all the other partners who helped make this historic renovation a possibility. Again, thank you so much, BizTimes, for having me on this panel. I look forward to participating on this with the other distinguished guests. Thank you.
Thanks, Hector. Linnea, can you give us an introduction to Revitalize Milwaukee?
I'd be honored to. Thank you, Lauren. It is also a true honor to be able to be on this panel today and share the great work we do. So thank you for the invite. Can you go to the next slide, please? So Revitalize Milwaukee is 20 years old this year, and our mission is to transform communities by providing low-income veterans, seniors, and people with disabilities with free home repairs. When we talk about the home repairs that we do for our community, they're really, and especially during this time, we'll get into it a little later, the devastation that we've seen in our community has been magnified by COVID-19. Our work that we do 460 houses a year throughout the community, and we've transformed over 110 neighborhoods since the inception of our work. The work we do, can you go to next slide, please? Sorry. The work we do is the largest provider of free home repairs in southeastern Wisconsin. Again, we did 460 homes this year so far, and we're looking at putting about $18.2 million into the community by the end of the year cumulative for the last 20 years. Our work really looks to revitalize the neighborhoods, empower the neighbors in the community in order to help people stay in their homes and age in place. Our work is supported by our collaborations with our partners, and we are also a nonprofit social enterprise by inviting other nonprofits to come and join us in order to build sustainability for the community. Most of our homeowners are led by women head of household, and we also have impacted our community by hiring local contractors to do the work that most of them have been with us for about 10 years. Next slide, please. As you can see, the diversity and the impact we have crosses many generations. Many of the homeowners that you see in the situations that we service are devastating situations. One of the situations that you, the gentleman to the far right in your slide, he just had a situation where he had 50 gallons of water in his basement while he's dealing with cancer, and during COVID had nowhere to go. So our services go in, impact the community, and 24 to 48 hours responses so that people can really know that they have a safe place to stay when they're at home. So we're really proud of our services, and we invite you to learn more about what we do at www.freehomerepairs.org.
Thanks, Linnea. And finally, Pete, can you introduce us to Easter Seals?
Yes, good morning, and thanks for having me today. Easter Seals is part of a national affiliate based out of Chicago. Easter Seals Southeast Wisconsin served over 2,300 individuals last year. We serve people with disabilities. We have 8 major programs, from guardianship to case management, adult daycare services, individual placement services, project search, Safe Babies, Healthy Families, REC, and camp programs. In the scope of today's discussion, instead of looking back, I think most of my comments are as it relates to looking forward. I retired in 2017 and 2018, took an engagement with Easter Seals to look at the organization's programs, their services, and their people. We have as I'm sure the others do, a phenomenal board of directors that are very engaged in the organization. We looked at process, people, and programs. 2018 and 2019 was really a time of discovery, change, and transition for us. And I think this is important in context of the COVID discussion that we're going to have. We looked at everything across the board, made some significant changes, which really, quite frankly, has benefited us during the COVID program. We went from 18 programs to 8 major programs. We realized we were no longer nimble. We weren't using our donor funds properly, and we could not support a lot of the programs that we had. Sustainability is something you'll hear me talk about today, but we put things into place to make sure we were sustainable and profitable, and so we could fund our programs. The combined restructuring really left us in a very good position at the end of 2019 and very strong coming into 2020. So our focus going forward, and as you'll hear with some of the changes that we've made with respect to the COVID, is how do we remain sustainable, how do we remain viable, and how do we first and foremost serve those with disabilities who are our clients. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. I just encourage anyone to submit your questions again using the Q&A function, but let's just dive right into the questions. Obviously, you all are representing very different organizations, very different focuses. So I'm assuming you have very different answers to this question, but let's just start by talking about how has your organization responded to the COVID crisis, and also how have you changed your services if you have had to?
So Lauren, I'll dive in. I think we're seeing that connection and empathy is now sort of more important than it ever has before. As everybody had sort of sheltered in place and went into their homes, the connection between us as human beings I think began to atrophy a little bit. And so as we can't gather in our performance spaces any longer, of course it is unsafe to do so at this moment. We pivoted to an all digital program. So we moved to a place where we were streaming productions into homes, but even more so, we're doing a lot more community-wide conversations digitally, and free education programs and things through a program called From Our Home to Your Home. And so we've kept 250 artists employed during this time period to do that. It's kept our entire staff employed as well, but also more importantly, it's provided essential opportunities to connect with folks across the entire region and state. I would also say that we started using our skill sets to pivot in what I would think previously to be odd and unusual ways. But our production shops, for example, were commissioned by Northwestern Mutual to build 15,000 pieces of personal protective equipment for the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. And so we were able to provide essential services outside the scope of what normally would be considered a theatrical endeavor at a very critical time. So I was proud of that as well.
Lauren, I'll say a few words. I want to first start off by thanking the LSS team, leadership team, all of the 800 employees, and really the board for really addressing this huge challenge that we're facing right now. I recall, I think it was the second week of March, I convened both a foundation and operating board. And I let them know that we were facing a $750,000 revenue hit per month. If we did nothing to the organization, we would end off losing $3.6 million at the end of the year. My executive team and I really pivoted quickly and made lots of changes. The executive officers took a voluntary pay cut. We had to unfortunately furlough about 60 individuals within the organization. And there were another 60 individuals that we budgeted for that we're not moving forward with. In addition to that, we implemented telehealth, which added $400,000 to $500,000 of revenue per month. So all of these changes and more really position our organization for success. And I think even we can be stronger after this pandemic than we were prior to it. We believe very strongly we're going to end the year in a positive versus what could have happened, a $3.6 million negative. We have a LSS response team that meets daily to look at the CDC guidelines, other best practices, collaboration with other organizations to ensure the health and safety and well-being of our staff is our #1 priority. In fact, each and every day, the first thing we say is that we want to ensure the health and safety of our staff. We believe that by putting them as #1, it's the right thing to do. And that in turn is going to allow us to serve others. Through the vehicle of telehealth, we're serving hundreds and thousands of individuals that would not be served if it wasn't through that platform. So we're very thankful that we've been able to innovate so quickly and pivot towards telehealth because these individuals need us now more than ever.
I'd like to add to that too. The health and safety of our employees has been first and foremost for us as well. And I'm grateful to say that we've remained healthy and safe through this time. We have a very small team and our work generally goes into directly into homes and homeowners. So at the beginning of the pandemic, we spent a couple of weeks really analyzing what is safe and what isn't safe, and put proper procedures and pivoted to work from home. One of the interesting challenges that was most immediate for us was really making sure our technology and the security systems around that were safe. So that was a quick and new learning that we had to make sure that people could work from home and our clients' information remained confidential. In terms of services, we took a slow approach. We did mostly outside work, but what was interesting for us as we started to pivot was understanding how critical the stay-at-home order for people who our clients really was. And it wasn't, the realization was that they weren't safer at home. You know, if they were able to provide themselves some relief by going to maybe a washroom in a grocery store, or going to someone's house to shower, or maybe bathing in a public facility, those no longer were options. So it was really critical for us to make sure that we continued to provide the services that were, so to help these individuals who are now facing catastrophic situations. What we also found is that situations where people's plumbing, for example, was on the brink of failure, really was more of more stress on it, and it failed quicker. So the opportunity for us to not continue services was really not there. There was nothing really for people to do. We also found that we had to pivot as well and take on additional responsibilities in terms of helping people go online and file for their payments if they didn't have a direct deposit already for the PPP. We also had some unfortunate situations where homeowners maybe, we had a situation where one woman had her tires slashed when she was at a grocery store. And so, and had nowhere to get help. So we replaced her tires. So we're constantly trying to figure out how do we be the highest and best use for our community, and likewise keep our team safe. So we are experiencing about 121% increase in services that we provided year over year from last year, and a 241% related expense attached to that. So I'm really incredibly proud of the team and our contractors that work with us. They have made a significant change in individuals' lives over the last few months that would have otherwise, I think, been very devastating for them and for our community.
I want to talk more about the funding piece in just a second here, but Pete, if you could talk a little bit about the response of Easter Seals.
Yeah, just a couple things. Everybody mentioned their great leadership teams. I totally agree with that, and also the direction from a board of directors. We were probably very fortunate because we had started a pandemic plan actually in January when rumors of things were happening. So we started to prepare very quickly for that. I actually think we got a little bit ahead of the curve, and we were then positioned very well to close down some of our operations, as well as continue some of the services that we offer through telehealth. So Hector was talking about that. We 5 of our programs had been operating under telehealth. We're remote for all those programs. We go to our clients. We had to change a little bit with respect to that, but the team answered in a great response. Our productivity levels are still 94, 95% above, which as we get into the revenue discussions, really has helped us maintain a strong balance sheet and a P&L. We did have to make some tough decisions as it relates to temporary layoffs and then some permanent layoffs. Some of the permanent layoffs resulted with some of our partners, the hospitals, through our Project Search program, which is a workforce development program. We obviously, with the hospitals being strained, could not operate in those facilities anymore, and so we've closed down that program for the balance of this year. But our guardianship program, case management, Safe Babies, Healthy Families, and our IPS programs continue to operate at very high levels. So we're down about 20, 22, 24, 26 people as of today. The good news is a couple of weeks ago, we started bringing back our adult day services employees and our clients. We're doing it in a very staggered way. So we're at 30%, 40%. Hopefully sometime by mid-July, we'll be up to 80 to 100% capacity. That, of course, helps our families. Adult day is a respite for them. They're also getting called back to work, so they need some place for their loved ones, and we're providing that service. So we felt we were pretty well prepared. We had a good management team that acted very quickly. We had to make some of those tough decisions to make sure that we were minimizing the expense side of the business and maximizing the revenue side of the business. And actually some things that we can talk about a little bit later as it relates to what we're going to be doing in the future really will position us very strongly.
I'm interested what your conversations with funders has been during this. Have you employed any creative fundraising strategies? How have you approached that piece throughout the crisis?
We've actually seen that fundraising has been pretty robust. It's interesting. So our theater is, we have a balance of 65% earned revenue to 35% contributed, 65 being mostly ticket sales. And as you can imagine, in the environment that we're currently in, we don't have a lot of ticket sales. And so we took a $1.5 million hit in FY20, which is getting ready to hit right now, end right now. And then FY21, we're looking at $2 to $3 million of earned revenue hit. And that's got to be offset by strategic expense cuts as well as additional fundraising. And so I think funders are starting to understand that the performing arts is going to be one of the hardest hit sectors in the entire world on this. We were the first to close. We're going to be one of the first or the last to reopen. And yet we're going to play a very critical role. I'm starting to talk about arts organizations as being critical second responders. We're seeing really tumultuous divides, and people are trying to process trauma. And that's what we're good at. We are good at allowing people to process emotions and to talk to each other and to bring our communities together. And so we're starting to find, we're having those conversations with donors, that they understand that, and our fundraising has been pretty robust to date. And so we're very appreciative for all of our donors and for their support of our activities.
We're also very appreciative of our donors. We raised over $100,000 specifically related to the COVID response. So we are so thankful to the donors that really stepped up to hear our story. And we also let them know that, is there anything that we could do for them? Maybe this pandemic hit them in a way that might require some additional support, or they have a friend or a family member that needs our help. So Maybe you didn't need us before, but we're here to help and serve you if you need that. So we did let them know about that. We just explained the unprecedented situation that we're in for our staff, for the people we serve, but also for the long-term viability of this organization. And we think our message is resonating. I also think that this has allowed us an opportunity to have more robust engagement with our donors. And so we really have been valuing that opportunity to engage with our donors. And I think it's gone very well. Again, we are so thankful to our donors that have supported us for, in some cases, decades, but especially right now when we need it more than ever.
From the, oh,
No, go ahead, Peter.
so from Easter Seal's perspective, our donor activities of late has been extremely productive and very healthy. And maybe just for people listening in today, some specific examples. We've gone to kind of a match donation type thing. So we had a couple matches to very specifically do things for our adult day services in our Waukesha location. So we completely remodeled the building. We had a match for buying a new disability van for our Wauwatosa operation. And recently we started a match program for our Wauwatosa needs some remodeling. Remember, these are the homes away from homes for our clients. The response to very specific giving has been very beneficial. We probably raised for the Wauwatosa location just recently $80,000 to $90,000 in the last 2 weeks. The van was another $50,000 that we had to raise, plus putting in the disability gear. That adds the cost to it too. One match, a couple offered $15,000 match. That generated about $60,000 for it. Out of that match, another couple stepped forward and said they would match up to additional $10,000. So if we get that, that's $80,000 as it relates to it. So just from a practice standpoint and being specific, trying to tie something into the donors can feel and touch and really see versus a general ask has been very, very beneficial for us, and they've responded very nicely.
We, during this, the COVID, we've raised about $130,000 for the direct services that we are providing. And like everyone else, we're incredibly grateful for that. That had a huge impact on our ability to respond quickly to the clients that need our help. We had a very strong intention when we went into this that we were going to come out of it not only stronger as a team, but also stronger as an organization. So I try and look for the gift in tragedy, as hard as that is, and look at what is it that the opportunity presents itself for us to get better, grow, and then also increase our sustainability for long term. And this was a perfect opportunity to do so. And so we pivoted our marketing and how we story told and took advantage of some of the discounts that were out there in terms of radio ads, and we're able to build a bit of a brand following based on some discounts that were available because of COVID. That also has helped us tell our story better. I think it's because what we do is so hidden and so private and so behind doors and so personal. It's very hard for us to really get into a lot of the details and paint a picture really quickly for individuals, and especially when you're used to going home and having functioning toilets, or if something breaks, you call somebody. It's very disheartening and embarrassing for people to admit that their plumbing isn't working, or that they can't get in their house, or they haven't had a hot meal for a long time because they can't get their food out of their microwave because they just can't physically do it. So we are continuing to learn and grow from this, and then identify the opportunities so that we can bring the community along with us, and also learn from the opportunity in order to make a sustainable organization even stronger. We went into this, thank goodness that we had a good cash position. Like many, I think, run their nonprofit like a business. And so my background in finance led me to really make sure that we don't have a line of credit, for example. We operate on a cash basis. We are always comparing our revenues to expenses to make sure that we're not overextending ourselves. There's nothing more important other than serving the clients than respecting and honoring the donors and their wishes with their funds. And so that's been a driving force, and we're just really grateful that we're able to do the work we do with the help of the community. So.
Kind of looking forward, I'm interested in what all of your plans are as Wisconsin is reopening. What considerations are you making and plans are you making for staffing? Are you staying remote? Are you bringing people back into the office? And then serving clients. Are you going back to serving clients face to face? Are you going to continue doing remote services? What's the plan?
I'll jump in. We're moving forward. We realize the efficiencies and the productivity through the virtual, so we will continue operating through telehealth. We're a very hands-on organization as it relates to working with our participants and our clients, and so we've started home visits again with the social distancing rules, the PPE, all the health and assessments related to that. So we're taking every step to protect not only our client, but our employees. So we're moving fairly fast. As I said, we've opened up our adult day services, and they're fully PPE'd, if you will, and that seems to be working well. So we're moving aggressively that way, but in a very staged fashion. So hopefully sometime in July or August, we'll be fully functional again.
We have never.
Go ahead.
So we never shut down, although we did pivot and have majority of the staff work from home during the virus. Going forward, we have one person that is continuing to work from home, and the rest are in the office. In terms of staffing, we're actually staffing up. The needs are astronomical. So we have 2 open positions for team members that we're looking for to bring on board, and then addition to that additional contractors. So in terms of home visits, the program team and my team has been phenomenal, and they've been delivering the applications to people's homes and then waiting for them to be filled out and then picking them up from them, and that's been working well. We are continuing on with increased home visits, again with PPE and social distancing. We are preparing right now for our block build, which is our largest event of the year, and that will continue on, where we're going to do up to 20 houses in 2 days in the Clark Square neighborhood. So we anticipate a number of people on site, and again, I've been planning for appropriate PPE and wash stations and social distancing and et cetera. But we have to move forward, and we have to make sure that us not visiting our homeowners is going to not put them in more danger than it would be to service them.
So we had sort of similar approach, which is one of the first strategic decisions that we made at the rep, because when you're hit with something like COVID-19 that doesn't have a playbook, you have to start figuring out how you're going to make very critical decisions, and then your decision matrix and what philosophy you're going to bring to it. The first thing that we defined is that people come first. That was the first thing that we said. And obviously that means the safety of our staff and our patrons and who we can serve. And actually in our case, that meant that we closed our venues down several days before we were ordered to, because we realized that we couldn't continue to serve people safely. I think what that's going to look like for the next year, you're starting to see, we're struggling with the exact same things that movie theaters, airlines, universities are struggling with, which is I think you're going to see from us that there's going to be a mix of in-person and virtual streaming options for the rest of the entire year. We have to remember that safety is a very personal decision. Some people are going to feel safe going out. Some people are in higher risk categories. And for those that are in, that just don't feel safe, we're going to have to find a way to deliver our mission to them in a safe manner. So we're going to be looking at different safety protocols, cleaning protocols, technology to use, all of those sorts of things. Interestingly, the question that I get quite a bit is, are you going to require face masks when you come back to your venues? I just got to be honest, I don't understand how we've gotten to a political environment where this sort of issue is so politicized. What I'm reading, and we have medical doctors that are advising us, and is that it's very clear that out of respect for others and safety protocols, that we should be wearing face masks. And so if we're in a similar environment, by the time that we're willing to open, out of respect for the safety of others, we probably will require face masks. But that's something that we have not determined at this time because our venues are not open. The other thing as a business leader is that we have hundreds of people that work for us, and we're going to have to be incredibly flexible with our workforce. I mean, our leadership team, we have 9 people on our leadership team. They're exceptional at what they do. And yet every single one of our Zoom meetings, there's kids in arms, they're running around. You probably just saw my husband, drop into this meeting. We're going to have to be flexible, and school situations are going to require that. And so it's going to be all about how do we nimbly move through this and create environments where we can keep our talented staff doing the best work they can.
Thank you. I agree with my colleagues. We're really trying to make sure that we put our staff as our #1 priority to ensure their safety. We're going to be providing masks and lots of hygiene supplies for our staff as they come in to make sure that they are safe as we go through this process. We are going to have a combination of people continuing to work from home and some coming back to the office. So we're exploring on what and how that looks like. But we feel comfortable with our approach. Again, making sure that our staff are safe. And some of our staff now actually enjoy working from home. And so a future model for our organization, we're going to take a look at that and how can we reduce our footprint on real estate and maybe to save money and continue to allow our staff to work from home if that is something that they would like to do. In terms of for the people we serve, that also is going to be a combination of telehealth, but also in person. So we'll be looking at what that looks like in the future, but right now and immediately we envision that it'll be a combination of virtual as well as in person.
We got a question from an audience member about with staff working remotely, what are some strategies you've employed for keeping communication open with employees who are working remotely? And then how do you evaluate performance and have those accountability measures in place as well in that format?
When you sent that question out, I found it a little bit interesting, odd, honestly, because you evaluate performance like you evaluate any performance. Is the work getting done and is it good? And so I personally, like I said about flexibility, some people are, their spouse has gone into work and they have to stay home with kids. And so they're going to do the work in the middle of the night. As long as the work is getting done and it's serving the mission and it's getting done well, I honestly don't care when it's getting done, how it's getting done, or where it's getting done. And so I think we have to be incredibly flexible around that. In terms of how we keep in communication, we have every morning at 9 o'clock, our leadership team has a check-in. We do virtual town halls every other week. I do what's called directors forums with our donors multiple times a week. So I'm probably talking to hundreds of donors sort of every single week. And the thing that I do find difficult is that it's really, theater people are used to working in collaboration with each other. And I am, as a leader, I'm really used to reading body language. And it's really hard when you have 90 people on the screen to see how, when you're delivering some very difficult messages and difficult financial information, how it's being received. I found it to be a challenge.
we pivoted right away to, because I wanted to make sure that we connected, and that again, we were, one of the tenets was to come out of this stronger as a team. And so immediately we started 9 a.m. Calls every day. And we did that for up until about 2 weeks ago. So the calls were really identifying, the first couple of weeks were really how we were feeling, what do we need to do to talk through this. I wanted to make sure that my team knew that their jobs were not only secure, but they were supported and they were able to pivot as they needed to for either their families or for whatever was happening in their lives or how they were feeling, which was really important. And then as we carried on, it really was an opportunity for everyone to get to know each other, I think on a different level and at a different depth, which again was another blessing. We've now pivoted to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday calls. And Mondays is, anything you want to ask, whether it's business or not, of any one of our teams. So we have that open forum for connection. And then Wednesdays, we report out on goals. And then Friday, it's Gratitude Friday. So no business, just talking about what we're grateful for and the opportunities for us. We've also had some happy hours with the team, which was really fun. And we played some online games. It's a learning environment. And using the technology is really, I think, an opportunity to go forward. I agree with Chad, though. It is very difficult when you have opportunities to, be socially closer. You have a different connection. So despite, having to be on Zoom, I think that our team is doing well and that we are looking to keep these conversations going either in person or on Zoom.
For us,
Go ahead, Hector.
Yeah, for us, I would say that, in some ways we feel more connected than ever. I've seen us be one LSS more than ever versus the LSS of Milwaukee and La Crosse and Racine and just really seeing how every member of the team is trying to come forth with solutions to address our complex challenges. And it might be something out of their program or relating to their staff. It's just really everybody coming together in these unprecedented times to really help each other and help LSS. So that's been really, really exciting. Obviously, our daily meetings that we have really helped build connection, partnership, trust. There's lots of unknowns that, sometimes we get questions. We ask all of our staff to ask us questions daily, whatever they might be. And sometimes we're honest with them. We don't have the answer and we let them know that. And they appreciate that. They appreciate the authenticity, to make sure that we're providing them with reliable, factual information when we have it. So in some cases, it's been hard because, I really enjoy traveling across the state and being able to see our staff and touch them and hug them, shake their hand, but we are doing that virtually. And it's not the same entirely, but at least it's a vehicle for us to stay connected. And I think it's been positive.
So from an Eastern Seals perspective, going back to the original question, which is actually a great question, understanding our revenue sources is critical in that answer. So most of our revenues are basically a fee for service. So nothing has really changed as a result of COVID. Our productivity levels, how we manage and how we bill for our services hasn't changed at all. The management techniques that we had, the meetings, so from in-person to more remote meetings, that's changed a little bit, but the team is really functioning fairly similar to what we were doing before. So that the performance issues, the productivity issues, none of those things have changed for us. And so it was a very seamless move with respect to the billing of services and how we manage our people and the expectations of those people. And the slightest change would have been in-person meetings, which, like Hector, I appreciate being face-to-face with people, but now we do it through our managers and these Zoom meetings.
Another audience question was, what's your plan at this point for if there's a second wave of a COVID outbreak? How are you going to respond in that case?
Well, from a Easter Seals perspective, excuse me.
Go ahead, Peter, please.
Thanks, Hector. We're going to do the same thing. We've got our pandemic plan in place. It's a good plan, a solid plan, reviewed by a lot of experts on our board of directors across many disciplines. We got their advice as we put it together. Our management team in the last 2 weeks have been talking about how quickly do we have to, everybody's using the word pivot, so I'll use the word pivot. If we have to do things. So we're going to do what we did in the first one and continue on. So we really don't see any additional risk associated with it or any additional issues that will hurt us implementing that.
Yeah, I just was going to say that, nobody has written a book on this, so there's not a playbook to follow. And I also wanted to say that we're going to kind of do what we did as we faced this first pandemic, and that is to act compassionately, serve humbly, and lead courageously. It's right in our mission. And one of the things that my team and the staff has been able to do is really adapt. Adapt our staffing models, adapt our way of serving staff. We've been able to innovate the implementation of telehealth rather quickly, and we were able to collaborate with our donors, collaborate with our contracted partners, collaborate internally here at LSS to really overcome the challenges that we face with this pandemic. And again, I believe that we're going to even be stronger after it because of all the great things that we've been doing.
Hector makes a really interesting point, which is there's no playbook for this, and I've been saying, I'm trying not to be flippant about it, but I've been trying to say I'm not an epidemiologist nor am I a psychic, and so I don't know. There is no precedent. We can't follow it. And so as we think about leadership lessons and so how we're going to go from here, I can't answer the question, Lauren, because I don't know. That's the truth of the matter is. But we are actually hiring people right now as we sort of restabilize our staff. And we're really looking for soft skills. We're looking for people who are agile, they're creative, they have grit, they're entrepreneurial, because those are the folks that are going to actually help us to develop the plan when we get to the place that we hit a second outbreak. And so right now, our biggest maneuver that we're taking is that we're bringing some new talents to our team that we know have exceptional soft skills that are going to help us navigate that area.
I agree. I think, the biggest leadership, I think, opportunity that we all have is resiliency. And I think if we're resilient and we're able to pivot to learn from whatever is next, because while we might have a different opinion on how to handle it, the net is that something is going to happen at some point, whether it be COVID or something else. And we just have to continue to try and get better as a community, and then also be a little bit more forethought. But at the same token, we have to be able to say, okay, what happens? None of us could have predicted this. And I think when we look at how, for me, if there's another outbreak, we certainly learned a lot of stuff, but then there's also things I probably would have done a little different. So, how do we then take those learnings and be able to implement them right away with the opportunity of continuing to keep your eye on the ball and be very, very resilient. I wish we all had the answers. I think I'm really impressed with our community and what we're doing. And I'm grateful for the partnerships we have that allow us to continue and for, organizations like yours, the BizTimes, to be able to bring this to the forefront so we can have transparent conversation about what we're doing and then learn from each other.
Great. Well, in the time we have remaining, I'm interested, what's the best decision that you've made? What's one decision you've made during this crisis that's really turned out well for your organization?
I'll jump in. Hire the right people, let them do their job. Our evolution from 18 to 19 to 2020 was, I talked about people, progress, and programs. It really starts with the people. Hire them, but then also let them do their job. Let them lead the teams. And so hiring the right people is the best decisions we've made. This environment for the future has enabled us to look at growth. So haven't heard a lot of that, but we're looking to expand 3 of our business lines through acquisitions. So we positioned ourselves strongly with the decisions that the board has made. We put the right people in place, and we'll actually come out of 2020 and the post-COVID in a very strong position, and hopefully take our skills and our talents and our people to help other organizations as we look to merge them into us and form new partnerships.
I agree with Peter.
Sorry, go ahead, Hector.
Oh, sorry, Chad. I agree with Peter. It's really about the team, and I'm so humbled and honored to be surrounded by great leaders. Prior to COVID, we've gone through a major transformation in our organization to position us for better success for our staff, for the people we serve, and the long-term viability of this organization. So that really positioned us well to be successful during this pandemic. And if it wasn't for the incredible team that I'm surrounded by, we wouldn't be in a position where not only are we not going to lose 3.6 million, but we'll be better than break-even budget this year.
I think from our position, I think one of the better decisions that we made actually came from a mistake that I made early on, which is when COVID-19 hit, it sort of hit us like a freight train. 40,000 people were affected. We had to do a whole bunch of logistical changes and refunds and you name it. And so we paused almost everything around logistics. And then we got to, when I first moved to Wisconsin, I remember telling my husband, oh, when the snow stops falling, we're going to go out and go grocery shopping. I didn't realize that the snow never stopped falling, right? And so we're going to have to, same thing with COVID, we're going to have to learn how to live with it and do our everything else around it that's critical. I think we've got to understand that we're facing 2 crises here. One is acute with COVID. The second is chronic with hundreds of years of systemic racism. And so we paused some of our other work, and that was a mistake. And we have to recommit ourselves that while we're trying to keep our organizations afloat and financially sound, that we're also dealing with the other issue that is, quite frankly, equally as important, or if not more important.
Thank you, Chad. That's great.
I wholeheartedly agree. I think the biggest thing, again, is our people, right? Because without us or without the people, the organization is not existent. And for me, the amount of time that we have spent together has been a huge payoff. And it's been a gift that I wouldn't have probably taken the time before to spend that much time talking, and certainly talking not always about business, but about other things, or fears, or hopes, or dreams. Today we did spend a large portion of our time talking about what Chad's addressed in our team, and how do we have authentic conversation about this, and what do we yet need to learn, and what do we need to be paid attention to. So without people, that was one of the biggest things that I think I've realized, is that how deep and strong my connection is with people, and how much I miss people, and how much it is such an integral part of day-to-day life that's going to make sure that we can be sustainable, because everything else can go away, but if you don't have that connection with people, and especially when you're in need, it's life-changing.
Well, that's all the time that we have for our discussion today. I want to thank you all again for sharing your insights. Really interesting discussion, and we really appreciate it. So this concludes the third in our webinar series on Candid Conversations within Nonprofit Leadership. Thank you for our other panelists who have joined us for the previous 2 webinars. Today's webcast is going to be available on demand. Just go to the registration page that you used to register for today's program. It'll be there shortly. And if you're able to take just a minute to provide us some feedback, when you exit out of this window, there's going to be a survey that prompts if you can just take a minute to tell us how we can improve with our webcasts. Other than that, thank you all again for joining us. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you all have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.